your hands into Anjali Mudra, bow your head. Offer your practice today to someone who needs healing, human being, animal being, or nature being. Bring them into your mind's eye, visualize them. Dedicate your practice. Namaste. Welcome, everyone. So, today we're going to chant, in a minute, we're going to chant the 108 Om Tryumbakum Mantras. But before we do that, I want to explain a little bit about it. So the fire that we have in the middle is it's symbolic of the fire we would normally have outside if it wasn't so cold. So the fire is for purification and it's also for offering. So what we're going to be doing is when we repeat the mantra Om Tryumbakum, at the end of each mantra, we say Swaha. And Swaha is an opportunity for you to offer up anything to the fire that you don't actually need in your life. Anything that may be holding you back in your life. Any inhibitions, any worries. So it's like the fire is for cleansing, for purification. And when we do that, when we come to that bit, I'll show you how to do it. But first of all, Om Tryumbakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Uvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityo Mukshiyamamrita is the Maha Mrtyunjaya mantra. So the Maha Mrtyunjaya is the great mantra that overcomes death. So what does that mean? Maha means great, and Mrtyunjaya means something that allows you to live your life fully. It doesn't mean you're not going to die, okay? Because you are going to die. But it means that you're going to be able to live your life to the full. There's plenty of space. Come in if you're, there's okay. Yeah, just come in and use the space at the front, it's fine. Okay, so Om Tryumbakam Yajamahe. We meditate on the three-eyed reality. So the three-eyed reality is Shiva. When you look at pictures of Shiva, you will see that Shiva always has three eyes. He has the two eyes that are looking out, and the eye in the middle of the forehead that's closed. So the third eye is looking in. And this is the first lesson. So we all have three eyes. We know about two of them, but the other one that looks inwards, we often forget. And Shiva is saying the message of this mantra is use the third eye. Make sure you spend time in your life looking inwards, find out who you are. And so, firstly, who is Shiva? You need to know who Shiva is if you're going to chant the mantra. So Shiva, there's lots of stories about Shiva, yes? And some of you know these stories about Shiva. And Shiva is a bit like us because there's lots of stories around him. And we all have lots of stories around us. Yes, our identity, how we perceive ourselves, how we present ourselves to the world, how we think about ourselves. We have all these stories around who we are. Shiva is the same. But there's something that you need to understand about Shiva. Shiva is not just Shiva is you. You are Shiva. So when you were driving here today, you came down the roadway to the farm. And on your left, there's lots of trees, yes? There's some mountain ash, there's some oak, some sycamore, some lime trees, all trees that I planted a very long time ago. So when you were driving past those trees, you thought you were driving past trees. And we give them names, just like we name ourselves. But every tree that you drove past was Shiva. And then you come in and you walk into the garden, and the garden is Shiva. And every plant in the garden, everything in the garden, every piece of gravel that you crunched as you walked to the door is Shiva. And then you came into the room and there was offerings of food. People brought food. And that food is Shiva. And then you met friends and you namaste'd them, or you hugged them, or you were just happy to see them. And each one of those friends was Shiva. And then you came in and you looked at the deities and you look at the fire. And the deities and the fire are Shiva. Are you with me so far? So who am I? If you, Shiva, who are you? So when I look into the eyes of someone, if I look into Sabrina's eyes, hi Sabrina. So I look into Sabrina's eyes. What do I see? So the first thing I see is I have a name. The name comes up, yes? It's Sabrina. Sabrina and I, we go back a long time. And so I know there's a story for me around Sabrina. And when she looks at me, she sees Maha, and she has a story around me. So we have this connection, and that's how it is. But then the whole thing about yoga is, like, it's about teaching you to look more deeply. So when I look at Sabrina and that's the way I see her, that's okay for everyday stuff. But what else is Sabrina? So if I look more deeply into Sabrina's eyes, the eyes that are looking out at me, what do I see? I see the eye that's looking in. I see Sabrina's soul. So when I see Sabrina's soul, the name and the form and the story falls away. You see? Because Sabrina, although those things are part of her material everyday life, they're not Sabrina. Sabrina is consciousness. When Sabrina looks back at me, she's reflecting her soul back to me, and that's revealing my consciousness. So this isn't Sabrina and Mark. This is consciousness and consciousness gazing on each other. Because we are both able to look inwards and see the soul. And that soul has many names. Today we're calling it Shiva. You could call it consciousness. You could call it supreme reality, Mother Nature. People call it God. People call it Ganesha, Saraswati, Buddha, Christ, Mary, Allah, etc. Are you still with me? So this thing that resides in each one of us, which represents the consciousness of the whole of reality in Sabrina, in me, and in every single one of you, is the same as the consciousness that's in those trees, that's in that gravel, that's in that river, that's in that ocean, that's in that moon, the sun, everything, your family, your partner, your dog, your budgie, whatever it may be. Yes? All of it is consciousness. All of it is Shiva. So the idea of the third eye represents your spiritual life and your spiritual practice. Because if you don't have some kind of spiritual practice, and it doesn't matter what it is, but if you don't, the third eye, not only is it closed, it doesn't look inwards. It just becomes dormant. And the worst thing that could happen to you is that your third eye opens and it looks out. Do you know how that feels? Where you feel anxious, where you feel stressed, where you suffer, where you feel anger, greed, lust, hatred, jealousy, prejudice. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It's because the eye that should be looking in and cultivating your inner life and helping you to discover who you are is looking out. And the whole of our culture and our society and our upbringing and the way we're made is almost designed to make that eye look out. And so we need a spiritual practice, and that's what we're doing tonight. That's why we're here. And this mantra is the mantra we've chosen because that's what it does. It teaches you to look in. It's all about Shiva's third eye. So now you know who you are. Just look at the person next to you. Look at them. Look into their eyes. Don't be shy. They're you. Yeah? It's hard, isn't it? Why is it hard? Oh, we're shy. No, I tell you why it's hard. Because seeing someone soul to soul is not what we're trained to do. We're trained to see difference. We're trained to see the other. But the yogi, the meaning of the word yoga is to see the oneness. So when I look into someone else's eyes, I'm not seeing difference. I'm not seeing gender. I'm not seeing the story. I'm not seeing the age. I'm not seeing the status, the education, the knowledge. I'm seeing soul. I'm seeing Shiva. Yoga is about getting yourself in a position where you do that every moment of your life. And that's called sadhana. And the thing about sadhana is that realization. This is why I'm telling you, this is my Christmas present to you. The reason I'm telling you this is because that will set you free. Can you see how that might happen? When you see everything in this whole created universe, including yourself, as God, how can life just be suffering? The Buddhists like to tell us that life is suffering. And of course, they're right. But Shiva's message is, it's suffering to a point, but beyond that point, you are Satchitananda. You are truth, knowledge, and bliss. That is your true reality. I'll say one more thing. Is that possible for you? Can you do that? Can you see God in everything? Can you see yourself as a manifestation of the divine reality? Can you see yourself as pure love? And see that in every other being and every other thing? Is it easy to do? It's not easy to do. But therein lies our problem. We think it's a long way off. And yoga is partly to blame for this, because yoga has this concept of enlightenment, liberation, kaivalya, freedom, the individual soul needing to merge with the universal soul, the jiva with the jiva and mukta, the atman with the para atman, all this kind of idea. What that is talking about is attainment. Like you have to attain something. You need some knowledge, you need some amazing knowledge. You need to be really good at Sanskrit. You need to understand Sanskrit. You need to kind of be able to stand on your head for a long time. You need to be like the kindest person out there. You need to have a really clean diet, and you have to kind of walk around with your head held high and set a really good example to everybody else. And, turn up for class every week and go to all the satsangs and go on lots of yoga retreats and have the right clothing, get a really good yoga mat and all these things. Yes, yes, you've done it. You've been there. I've been there. So all these things you need to do and to learn to become enlightened. How does one become enlightened? What is enlightenment? Enlightenment is just seeing everything as a God. That's enlightenment. And now you know. So what's the problem? Because we think we're not good enough. We're not ready. Yeah. It's going to take more time. We don't have the knowledge. We don't have the understanding. Maybe that's how we feel. Or maybe we just feel it's not for us. Maybe we feel we're just not good enough for that. It's for the others, the more advanced souls. But your soul is perfect. How could it be anything else if you're a manifestation of Shiva, God? You're perfect. Your soul is ripe. It's ready. You don't have to learn anything else. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You just have to accept that you are consciousness. If you can just make that little leap in your mind, it's not even a big leap, you'll be free. You'll be a yogi. In this it says, may we be liberated from death for the sake of immortality, even as the cucumber is severed from the creeper. So the cucumber, I like to use the analogy of a pear because I grow pears. I also grow cucumbers, but I'm more into pears. So pears are kind of like, the thing about a pear is, you know when it's ripe, because you just cup it in your hand and you lift it and you just give it the slightest little twist and it falls into your hand. And in yoga, we call that pushti. Pushti means ripe. But we're not really talking about pears in this context. We're talking about your soul. Is your soul ripe? Is it going to come away from the tree without any tugging or pulling or twisting or cutting? Is it just going to fall away when you lift and twist? Is it going to be effortless? Your soul falling into the realization that you're at one with reality, that you are God. There's no reason why not. No reason. You were born ready. You're here, which kind of affirms you're ready. But everybody's ready if they just have that little shift of consciousness. It's not just about yogis. You are pushti. Do you feel pushti? Do you feel a little bit more pushti now? It's easy for me to say, but that is your journey. That is yoga. If you can make that shift in your consciousness, that's kind of my job description. Not to teach people to stand on their head for a long time. My job description is I'm somebody who tries to make everybody realize they're God. And I know you can do it. I've seen you. I've seen you. Namaste. Mantra 108. Tryumbakam mantras. And some of you are new to this, so I'm going to do the first one in call and response. And then we just start to chant together. If you want a mala, by the way, you can pass them around. There's someone near the fire. Just ask if you want one. And then we'll just go into the chanting together. And don't worry if you don't know it. It doesn't matter. And just try to surrender to the vibration of the mantra. Let the mantra flow through you. And once we get going, I'll pick up the pace a little bit. It doesn't want to be too labored and slow. It wants to create a vibration. And when we all do it together, you'll feel that vibration. You okay? Ready? It begins with 3 Oms. We've lost someone. I'm going to wait till they come back. Remember, at the end of each mantra, we're going to go swaha. And some of you would have done it when we've done it outside around the fire pit, and that's where we make the offering of the samagri to the fire. But when we say swaha, you can, in this circumstance, you just do it with your mind. It's like you offer to the fire everything that's holding you back from that realization that you are divine consciousness. You know what that is. Yeah, we all here now? Inhale deeply for Om.